welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Final Boy Status. I'm here with the gang. I will be your host for this episode. I'm Lance and Lappin. I'm here with the dudes. I'm here with Adam Bone.
What is up?
Yo. And as always, Luke Haueter.
Yo. I doubled down on a word that I immediately regretted and then said it 17 times.
Sometimes, you just got to stick with the course, even if it's bad. So anyway,
when you're like going to drive right off a cliff and you're like, let's just see what happens.
Pedal to the metal, man. Just stand on the accelerator, see what happens.
Full Thelma and Louise.
Oh, shoot. Well, if this is your first time tuning in, or it's been a little bit, here at Final Boy Status, we're a podcast that talks about horror movies and how to survive them. It's pretty much basically what a lot of people do at home, whether you're watching with friends or family. You're like, oh, I would have done that differently, or, oh, don't go in there or do this, And we kind of just put ourselves as average Joes in the shoes of the characters and see if we could make it to the end.
May I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
We've been doing this podcast for a while now, like about a year, I think.
Yeah.
Question mark. Has it affected like how you watch horror movies, like when you're off the clock? Like, do you start to watch horror movies through the lens of like, if I were talking about this on the podcast, I'd want to bring this up. I'd want to bring this up. Because we were talking a little bit before we started recording. I'm starting to have that where I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, if we talked about this on the podcast, I'd really want to talk about this.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel like I'm a lot more, I guess, conscious of what I'm watching, or at least a little bit more in my mind, like, oh, well, this was good, or I would have done this differently, whereas before I'm just like, scary dude with a knife. That's cool. So,
Scary dude with a knife is everybody's favorite part of the evening.
Oh, yeah. Nothing like a first date with a scary dude with a knife.
I think it definitely bleeds into other movies, not even just horror movies. Sometimes I'm watching like a James Bond movie and I'm like, man, could I survive this? And usually the answer is no, because I'm not James Bond, but I think it does make me like, could I survive this? Could I survive it if I was this character? Could I survive this interaction? So
Adam did once tell me that he didn't think he could make it through Pitch Perfect.
Oh, no way, man. I'd be like, I forget what songs they sing in it, or else I'd make a joke, but I'd start singing. They'd be like, sorry, man.
You gotta die.
Have to kill you now.
Can you imagine how weird, like how crazy that would have been if that movie, just like for the first half, is Pitch Perfect as we all remember it, and then there's a scene where somebody's bad at singing and they get taken behind like the barn and shot, like like full of mice and men.
I can see it.
I can see it. Oh man, sorry.
That's amazing, dude. I would own those on 4K if that was the case. Like, I don't even care if it's a garbage trilogy after that. Like, I'm owning those.
It only happens once in each movie, and it's never talked about.
Nobody acknowledges it. Nobody brings it up.
They just move on, and they go right back to being like the Pitch Perfect thing.
Yeah, and it's not even like a sarcastic movie or a spoof. It's like a straight Pitch Perfect movie. Then someone gets shot behind the barn. Then it goes back to being taking itself seriously.
Oh man,
letting the power of friendship prevail, all that good stuff.
Hollywood, where are you at? Let us get at this.
Come on,
we'll write a script for you.
Come on.
Fair warning, it's going to be exactly the same as the script from the original Pitch Perfect, but there's going to be a pretty interesting midpoint.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. That is good. So for this week's movie that we're watching, we're going to be talking about The Visit, an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So Adam, this was your pick. Why don't you maybe give us a little bit of a rundown and maybe why you picked it?
Sure thing. So this movie, I guess I'll give the background of why I chose this movie, and then a little bit of what the movie's about. So I saw this movie in theaters. It was M. Night Shyamalan, who, I mean, this was 2015, I think. So basically everything he had done in the last 6-7 years, I don't know. I don't have the timeline in my head. Most of the movies have been, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but very critically not well received and very not well audience received either. They weren't very good movies. And so I think
the movie he did like right before this was After Earth, right? Like the Will Smith one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the most recent before this one.
Yeah, and then he took like a 3-year gap to do this one, like really recalibrate.
And so I remember going into this movie, and I think everybody probably, unless they were just a casual viewer who had no idea who M. Night Shyamalan was, we all went in and we were like, this is not going to be good. Because he's hit and miss, but to this point, he had only made a chunk of good movies and then a chunk of bad movies. So this was my perspective. I was like, his time's over, man. I don't see this being a good movie. But I'd heard some buzz about it. So people were like, no, it's actually pretty good. So I watched it. And I'm excited to hear what your guys' thoughts about it. But I was very pleasantly surprised. And I remember being like, you know what? Good job, M. Night. This was a pretty simple, pretty straightforward, good horror movie. And so that's kind of why this one stuck out to me, just because of like, it felt like, okay, like a new M. Night is kind of coming out of the woodwork. We might see a new day for him. It might be an M. Night Renaissance coming out of this. Was kind of a movie that heralded that. He has since made some more movies, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more in detail of if that Renaissance actually happened. But I think this one, Split, I mean, they're very competent movies. But I think this was the beginning that I think me and probably the rest of the fans of M. Night were like, all right, let's keep this train rolling. Let's see what he has next. So if you haven't seen the movie, it is a found footage movie, which is in 2015, especially, and today has been something that's been pretty done to death. It's a genre that's been well tread, but it's this kid or these two kids who are visiting their grandparents while their mother is off on a vacation with her boyfriend, and they are with the grandparents. They've never met the grandparents before. The mother was estranged from them for about 15 years, and then crazy things start happening, creepy things. The grandparents are acting pretty strange, and creepiness ensues. So that's the plot of this movie and why I chose it.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. So nice. Adam, you kind of opened the door a little bit. So why don't we segue into the next portion of the show, which is basically where we give our general opinions about the movie as a whole, as well as how spooky it was, giving both of those a rating out of 13. So Adam, for you, when you're looking at this in general quality, what would you give it out of 13?
Sure. And I kind of gave the background for this. I think it's a very simple movie, and it's a movie that there are twists to it, like the main twist at the end, but it's nothing like where it doesn't feel much. I think the thing that I like about this movie, which I don't know, it doesn't really feel like a Shyamalan movie. I feel like out of all of his movies, almost all of his movies, this one, the dialogue works a lot more than it usually does. It's a lot less stale. It's actually quite funny in places where I think in other movies you see him trying to be funny and you're like, I don't know, man, it's not really working for me. But in this movie, to me, it worked a lot. Not that it's the tightest script I've ever seen, but it was really passable for the simple movie that I was going for. I looked it up, and this is the lowest budget he's ever had. It was like a $5 million movie, and it made like, $100 million in the box office or something crazy. So like, in my opinion, this is where M. Night really shines, is when there's a low budget, when it's a simple concept, when he's really not trying to go big and go crazy and get too complicated. And it's not going to be the craziest scary movie you've ever seen. It's not going to be the scariest scary movie you've ever seen, but it's very, very competent, and I liked it. So out of 13, I'm going to give it an 8.5, which I feel like I've given like a lot of movies that we've done this season. Like this really middle of the road, like over half pretty good. I don't know. Maybe that's just my mindset about movies, or I don't know. But I honestly think this is kind of the epitome of a horror movie. It really works. Throw it on, have a good time with friends, but it's not blowing any barriers, and it's not too crazy or twisty, which in my opinion is a positive for Shyamalan that he didn't go too crazy. So that's my thoughts.
Nice. Very nice. And Luke, how about yourself? Just talking about the general quality of the movie, what would you give it out of 13?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with a lot of what Adam said. I mean, if we talk about M. Night, he's exactly right in that there's a chunk of really well-made movies, there's a chunk of really poorly made movies, and then he kind of had something to prove, and so he put his head down. He went to Blumhouse, and they did a really, really small budget horror movie together. That got him some momentum. He carried that into Split, which got him like full steam train going ahead. And I haven't heard a lot about Glass. It's pretty divisive. I've heard a lot of people say they loved it. A lot of people say that they hated it. I still haven't seen it. And then of course he did Old, which everybody just across the board hated. So like, yeah. I really like this movie as like an underdog story. This idea that M. Night was kind of, he knew he needed to go back to the drawing board, and he did it like, and how. So I appreciate that aspect of it quite a lot. In terms of like what I think about the movie, like Adam said, sometimes M. Night's scripts can be a little stilted. And the dialogue doesn't always work as well as I would like. This movie does feel really natural, which is good because it's a found footage film. It needs to feel natural. And yeah, there were parts that got me to laugh out loud. I'm just echoing Adam. Let me try to find something unique to say. It is a found footage film, which has kind of been done to death. But one thing I really liked about how he approached it with this is a lot of found footage horror films make the mistake of forgetting that every shot of the film has to be character motivated. Like a horror film will have a camera pointing at something and a scary thing happens, but the character would have no reason to point the camera there. Every shot in this movie is character motivated. There's a reason why they put the camera where it was. There's a reason why it happened to see the thing it did. And I was really impressed by that because if you get really lost in the fun of found footage, sometimes you forget about that. And I was so excited that he didn't make that rookie mistake. He carried it off so well. I will say a big thing in this movie is it talks a lot about old people who have a thing called sundowners, which is like a thing for when old people go crazy after the sun goes down and it's night. A little bit of background about myself, which you guys are aware of, but maybe hadn't thought about. My mother is a licensed CNA, and for years and years worked in nursing homes with old people. And interesting story, like, and not just like any old people. These are people who cannot take care of themselves anymore. It's really macabre. It's really like dark and macabre to say, but a nursing home is kind of where they go to die. They can't take care of themselves anymore. They're getting sicker and sicker, and they're not going to live on their own again, most likely. And just, growing up in the situation I grew up in, I spent a lot of nights sleeping on the couch of a nursing home, like because my mom had to work there overnight and she didn't want me and my brother like at home by ourselves. So we'd spend the night sleeping on these couches. And we saw a bit of like sundowners, and I actually got the chance to talk to my mom about sundowners and its portrayal in this movie. What I will say is he really kind of biffed it when it came to his portrayal of sundowners, because this movie is very grounded. It's very real. M. Night Shyamalan likes to go fantastic, but this movie, he really held himself back and made everything be very, very real. But he also took the Sundowners thing a little too far in places. I think he did his research for sure, and he took some ideas from that he liked. I mean, it's like, it's weird to say, but yeah, like old people getting naked and like scratching and knocking at doors and not being sure where they are. That's pretty common with Sundowners. Like, yeah, they'll take off their clothes and they'll go wandering around, knocking on doors and scratching at doors. That does happen. For them to projectile vomit in the middle of the night, that's not a thing. So like, he definitely had some ideas that I feel like at the beginning, he's trying to get you to think that maybe the grandparents are possessed. And so he kind of like, he really leans heavily on like, oh, they have Sundowners, and that's why that happens. But not everything is in line with what people who have that affliction are actually like. For instance, her like crawling around on the floor like she's in The Exorcist and like popping up and doing a jump scare with the camera, or projectile vomiting. None of that is something like somebody would actually do. But other parts were right. Yeah, like when they catch her butt naked scratching at doors. That's not far off. So yeah, definitely I got pulled out of it a bit, seeing some things that were unrealistic in a movie that's supposed to be really, really grounded and realistic. Yeah, I had some issues with like characters that like decisions the characters made, but we'll get more into that in a second. Nice. All of that coming together, thinking about it, having talked it over with my mom, I'm gonna go right there with that. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I do think this is an above average horror film. I don't think it's one I'm going to be watching again anytime soon, just because like found footage is a hard genre for me in the first place. And I feel like I should call out Adam and say that he likes found footage more than your average moviegoer. And for me personally, it's not my jam. So like, it's not something like Blair Witch where if somebody puts it on, I'm like, all right, let's watch. Like, this is really good. It's really well crafted. It's something that like, if somebody put it on and I'd seen it pretty recently, I'd be like, yeah, nah, I'm just going to go to bed, guys. So yeah, I'll go 8.5. I really like that it gave M. Night some momentum again and kept him making movies. Cause like for a minute there, like I said, he was kind of out of the game for 3 years. So it could have been a possibility that he didn't make another movie. So I'm kind of happy that it keeps him in the game, because he is hit or miss, but his hits are really fun.
Yeah. So I guess for me, looking at this movie, I am actually not a big fan of found footage like that for me. And especially in this one, where there are some moments where it happens and I'm like, yeah, the camera's just gonna be there. Okay. For me, I do respect that, M. Night kept it consistent throughout the found footage, like, and really did a good job in that sense. But for me, I wasn't a big fan of the movie, to be honest with you. I think the premise is cool, but for me, the delivery was just kind of meh. So, as well as I don't know, I felt like there are parts, especially with the kids when they're talking, when it's like, okay, this is like written
it's an old man writer trying to sound like a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So
that happened a couple times.
Yeah, so that definitely took me out of the movie. But I do like M. Night Shyamalan a lot. I do have to say this is probably like my only fourth or fifth, so take my opinion with a grain of salt of fourth or fifth movie that I've seen of his. I'm not super familiar with his work, so I could just be a hater here. But yeah, out of 13, I would probably give it a 6. Yeah, is my general opinion of the movie itself.
Would you say that to M. Night's face?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's fine.
Well, okay, sweet. All right.
As long as we're not like talking behind his back, as long as we're comfortable saying all these things to his face.
Yeah, no, like I definitely wish him the best. Hope he's doing good in life. Just be like, not for me, man. That's it. But I'm just like one random person, so whatever.
He's got plenty of confidence to go around. He says it's a 13 out of 13 in the mirror every morning, so I think he'll be okay. It won't bring him down. He'll keep making.
He sees we do two. He sees that we've done 2 movies of his in a row on the podcast, and he's devastated. He's like, these guys
recover from this.
They're impossible to please. All I ever wanted was a 13 out of 13. What do I gotta do?
And they're pretty positive reviews. We're like, yeah, it was a good movie. He's like, no.
But then
we say movie you've ever seen or nothing.
But then we say the score, and we're like 6, 8.5, and he's like,
kill me now.
I didn't even break 10.
Shoot.
Ari Aster broke 10. I gotta up my game.
Jeez.
So anyway,
now that we've kind of give our general opinions, let's kind of give our rating for spookiness out of 13. Adam, what would you rate this movie on spookiness out of 13?
This one's a little tough for me because I feel like, in my opinion, this movie, when I first saw it, I guess I didn't see the twist coming, and so when there was that moment. Spoiler alert, which I mean for the rest of this podcast there will be plenty of spoilers, so get that now. Where the mom was like, that's not your grandparents, I don't know who are those people or whatever she said. That freaked me out in theaters when I saw that. I was like, holy crap, like these are just some random people. And to me, the idea of that was such a cool idea, and it was so scary that like they were just left alone with these random people. And if your kids were just, I don't have kids, but if I had kids and I left them alone with random people, how, like, what a crazy thing that is to have happen. And it made a lot of sense to me. And I thought it was a good twist. That it wasn't like a weird, crazy twist that Shyamalan had to do. It was just a generally really good, creepy premise. I think there are some moments that I remember being very scared by when they're playing hide and seek or whatever under the house was just an image that is so unique and so scary of that grandma just like on all fours just coming at him. Like that's a terrifying concept. I think I said it before, this isn't going to be the scariest movie you see. I think it does some things that are really cool, really effective, but I think there are a few moments out of many. I think many of the moments are not all that particularly scary. When the grandparents are naked, it's more like that's kind of gross. And maybe that's what he's going for. A lot of this movie has a gross factor to it, which isn't always my favorite in horror movies. But yeah, the twist at the end, I remember being really unsettled by to the end. So I think I'm gonna go pretty middle of the road here. I think it's better. It's more scary than a bad horror movie, but definitely isn't gonna be the scariest. I'll give it a 7 for scariness.
Nice. And Luke, what about yourself? What would you give this movie on scariness out of 13?
Okay. Well,
copy me.
Let me bring up every point Adam made, beat by beat. No, I don't think this is. I mean, I feel like I watched this. If I'm remembering right, I watched this, exchanged a few texts with you guys, and then went right to bed. Had no trouble sleeping. So it's not like something that's like really gonna stick with you. I'm gonna agree with Adam. I think this is controversial statement. This might be the best M. Night Shyamalan twist because he's not trying to like literally change the rotation of the earth with this twist. He's literally just a simple one that serves the story, falls in line with what we've seen. It's that little piece of information you get that turns everything on its head and everything makes sense now. So it's probably the best M. Night twist, in my opinion, of the ones I've seen, just because it's the perfect piece of information to make the entire movie make sense. In terms of like scariness, some of the scarier scenes are supposed to be of the grandma sundowning. And like I said, when they weren't grounded or realistic, it pulled me out of it and I didn't find it all that scary. Under the House really got to me. That was quite something, especially because you kind of expect that is a scene that takes place during the daytime. And normally, like, you feel safer during the daytime in a horror movie. And then, of course, she like stands up and acts like it's no big deal. She's like, anyway, you kids want cookies? And she turns around and her full ass is hanging out. And it's just a really unsettling scene from beginning to end and really well done. The actors that play the grandparents, I don't know their names, but they are truly magnificent. So yeah, I don't know. The stuff that disturbed me the most isn't stuff that I would say is scary. I think the most disturbing thing in the movie was that like long take at the end where the grandpa takes off his diaper and rubs it on the kid's face. That was probably the most disturbing thing in the entire movie. And it wasn't like I was scared. It was just disturbing. So I'm going to go lower than Adam. I'm going to put it at a 5, and like basically 4 points of that come directly from the under the house sequence. How about you, Lanson? Where does this fall for you for scares?
Yeah, I mean, I think the twist is cool. I don't know. The way that it was done was a little bit hinky in my opinion, which we can get into later on. But it definitely is a disturbing like sense of, oh my goodness, like your kids are with like these random strangers. And also like the under the house scene, like I about threw my laptop when I was watching it, when I saw her just crawling underneath the house. I'm like, nope. So definitely that got me good. Grandma, stop it, Grandma. Go back to your kitchen. Get in your hole, Grandma.
Go clean the oven, Grandma.
We should get in the oven to clean it. No. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, other than that, there wasn't anything that really stuck with me as far as scares or anything that where I was like, there are parts to it where definitely there was a gross out factor, which I personally didn't like. I was just like, this kind of takes me out of the movie. I'm like not enjoying this experience at all right now. So as far as out of 13, I'd probably give this, I'll give it a 4, as far as scariness, definitely not that scary of a movie, in my opinion. So moving on to another segment of our show. This is usually where we talk about a little bit about kind of the killer, the antagonist, the force that's going against the main characters, talk about strengths, weaknesses, ways that we could survive in the situation of the main characters against the adversary or the force of nature that's in the movie. So why don't we kind of open it up for that? What strengths or weaknesses do these old people have?
I mean, just to throw out the obvious ones into the race first, I think obviously the fact that these kids think they're the grandparents are a huge strength, because not only are kids pretty vulnerable and pretty dependent upon you, they're also just have the perfect alibi to be there. So really, whatever motivations you would have as this antagonist, you could probably get away with whatever you want to do because you're the guardians of these kids, and these kids are there and you're there. So I think that's the most obvious one, is that these are kids. I mean, they're pretty old kids enough to like be able to think for themselves and realize something hinky's going on. But it took a while of being with these grandparents to come to the definite conclusion, like, no, we are in danger. So I think that's a pretty big strength.
Having the trust of the kids is huge. What I will point out is, they kind of just got lucky a lot, right? Because like 3 different people show up looking for the grandparents, and they're like, oh, they're out on a walk. Oh, cool. I'll come back later. And it's like, whoa, what? You're telling me these guys could have been outed like the first day just by somebody showing up and going, hey, spoiler alert, those are for sure not your grandparents. Second of all, yes, the kids have never met them, but they've also, I guess, never seen a photograph.
Exactly. Yeah. that was definitely a big one for me, where it's like you're the mom, and you're not going to be like, hey, these are your grandparents. This is at least what they look like, so you know who they are when they come to pick you up. That's kind of like, well, you have that. There's not really a movie. It's like, hey, those aren't my grandparents. I'm not going to go with them. End credits.
And honestly, like, that would have made this movie a 13 out of 13. Can you imagine?
Yeah. I honestly would have I would have died. I would have been like, yeah, this is it. M. Night, you're the man.
Give it to you. Gotta give it
you're
to
you. You're the king. You get the 13 out of 13 this time.
It's the whole train sequence. They see the grandparents. Hey, you're not our grandparents. And then it's just an hour of her editing the train sequence. Just a single static shot of her editing together footage for the train sequence. So I think obviously the movie kind of suggests a couple times that they're really tough for old people, like when the grandpa freaking beats the crap out of that guy for just walking, I guess. Or like also that one girl does come looking for them, finds them, and then I guess they hang her in a tree in the backyard without the kids noticing, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
But then also, spoiler alert for the end of the movie, like, these old people just get beat to death by these kids. Like, the grandpa who's supposed to be the tough guy gets beaten to death by like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Who's like screaming about football or some shit. And like, it feels to me like they're fragile, they're old. If they have the element of surprise, that is something. They do have like the trust of the kids, which is significant. We can't overlook that. But also, like, I'm pretty sure that kid decapitates grandpa with the fridge door. He goes like full Daredevil season 1 and just So when push comes to shove, how threatened, if I am in the place of these kids, me as I am now, a 23-year-old man, how scared of these old people am I? Not particularly. And and we'll get into it more when we talk about like the kids, but those kids kind of put up with a lot before they just kill them. Like,
yeah,
like I said, that little the 10-year-old, he lets a full loaded diaper get rubbed on his face for like a good long while before he bum rushes grandpa and kills him with the fridge door. And I don't know, like, if it's me, as soon as grandpa's like dropping trow, I'm like, he's vulnerable. there was like a pan on the counter in one of the shots. I thought it was going to be important. It never came up. Nobody ever used it. I thought for sure like somebody was going to pancake grandpa's head with that iron, with the skillet, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm that little kid, as soon as grandpa's like dropping trout, I'm like, well, here's a nice pan. Let's just beat this old man to death. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Also, grandpa is suicidal, we find out, because there is fully a scene where he has a gun in his mouth. And unfortunately, like the girl walks in and stops him before he can do everyone a favor. But like, I do want to point that out. Like, maybe just like be mean to him. I don't. This is gonna get really dark, and sorry, but I don't know. Maybe just harass the old man a little, and he's just gonna go hang himself from a light fixture like the samurai of old. Commit full seppuku up in here. He has to complete Sudoku.
Yeah, grandpa loves his Sudoku.
I think I would categorize, because I think both of them, we could all agree, are mentally unstable to a certain extent, which is a negative for what Luke said, where it makes him vulnerable emotionally. I think it kind of acts as both a strength and a weakness, though, because it adds to the sorry, this word just slipped out of my mouth. Unpredictability of them, where motive wise, exactly what they're trying to do here, exactly what their end game is, like what their plans are, like it doesn't seem that cohesive. I think they are like, just, we're scaring these kids, we just killed their grandparents, they're downstairs. So like, I don't know, I feel like them being unstable makes them vulnerable, makes it so you could probably use that to your advantage. But I think it also makes them a little bit more formidable when, you're like, well, they could just kill me now, but not like then, like there's no real rhyme or reason to exactly what they're gonna do. Is how I interpreted kind of what their stuff was about.
I mean, one thing that, like, it's only really kind of half said by the grandpa, like at the end, but he does kind of imply that it was like, it had to be like a perfect week. And
right,
if you notice, like throughout the week, the grandparents are just trying really hard to just placate the grandkids, like constantly. Anytime something even slightly goes wrong, they're coming in and they're being like, oh, no, like we're going to fix it, because they need everything to be perfect before they kill the children, I guess.
Yeah.
It's alluded to that they're going to kill the children. But part of me is like, I feel like that kind of gives you an advantage too, where it's like, they clearly have made an agreement of like, we will not kill the kids until we have had this perfect week with them. And so like, maybe they're a little more freewheeling with their intentions and plans. Excuse me. But it seems like you're definitely kind of safe in the regard that they don't want to hurt you. They want to have this weird, idyllic, perfect week with you, and then like drown you, so like they can keep that perfection in their minds forever or whatever. So I don't know. Like, part of me is like, yeah, they are unpredictable, but also he kind of outs himself at the end by saying like, yeah, we wanted to have this perfect week. So I think before that last day, I don't know that they would have actually hurt the children, because they're so preoccupied with playing house and being the perfect grandparents, or being what they think are the perfect grandparents, because their version of perfect grandparents is still pretty horrifying. I don't know. What do you make of these friggin' raisins lapping?
Freaking dinosaurs. Yeah, I think definitely we brought up the point of, they have the element of surprise. They have the trust of the kids because they think they're their grandparents, because they've never seen a picture, and there's no way to get pictures of people online, so it's a hard impossible thing to know. But yeah, I mean, you do have, I would say that the kids, like, there's a lot that like they're just like, oh, well, they're old. Well, it's like, yeah, so not really. Just because you're old, you're not going to do that. Like, there's a couple things, and granted, they are younger kids, so I can't, be like, well, think your way out. But but definitely there are a couple things where there should have been some more red flags. But I think at the end of the day, the ultimate weakness of old people is the bones are going to be brittle, like
they're
things
old.
going to break down. So they're old. Exactly. Like
their bones are brittle.
Their bone osteoporosis, bro.
Lanson's first order of business is breaking an arm and making a shiv out of the splintered bone.
Yeah, bro. If I'm lucky, maybe if I break the femur, maybe the bone will go into the femoral artery and just bleed out. That way it's like a well, not a clean kill, but a more effective kill. So I don't have to exert too much force, but enough to get the job done.
I like how you clarified not a clean kill, because the cleanup on that one would be a real nightmare.
Oh yeah, it would just be a bathtub of blood all over the kitchen or wherever you ended up breaking the dude's leg.
The M. Night Shyamalan twist in that one is that the second half of the movie is just mopping up.
Did you really? Couldn't you have just, I don't know, choked him out? Jeez, man.
Oh man. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we've kind of talked a little bit about kind of the strengths, the weaknesses of the grandparents in this situation. Anything else you guys can think of that maybe we want to cover?
Nothing jumping out.
Nothing jumping out like that freaking grandma.
Grandma, stop it, Grandma.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm actually excited to talk about these.
Heck yeah.
These freaking kids. I don't know.
So moving into kind of the next portion of our show, what we like to do is talk about the main characters, their decisions, what we would have done differently if we were in their shoes, like what they did right, what they did wrong. So why don't we just kind of open it up and discuss that a little bit with these kiddos?
Let me tell you about these kids. All right. They should be dead.
Probably, yeah.
I can't imagine worse decisions. Yeah. No, like for real. I mean, they put up with way too much.
Yep.
Like they don't tell their mom, "Hey, we need to get out of here," until I think like they're supposed to stay till Saturday. They tell her on Thursday. She's like, "Cool, I'll come get you tomorrow." And then Friday is like the day they talk to her and she goes, "Those aren't your grandparents." So like literally watching this movie, and like the mom kind of makes it clear. It's like, "Hey, like it's nice of you to give me this time, but if something goes wrong, like, let me know." And I feel like as soon as I see grandma projectile vomiting on night one, I'm like, nah, the vibe is off. At the very least, I feel like these kids, like, even if you don't say, "Hey, something's wrong, come get us," you definitely should be telling mom, like, "Hey, just so you know, apparently grandma has sundowners and that makes her projectile vomit. Like, hey, mom, just so you know, I walked in on grandpa full giving a gun a blowjob, and I thought that was a little odd." Or, "Hey, mom, grandma chased us under the house playing hide and seek in a terrifying way, and then walked back into the house with her full ass hanging out." If nothing else, I feel like within 2 days of being there, I'd be like, they are not mentally fit to be supervising children, and probably are not mentally fit to be like just on their own. And I would give full disclosure to mom, like, "Hey, here's what's going on. Here are the things we've noticed. And I don't think they're mentally fit to be supervising us. You don't have to come back from your trip or anything, but we do have to figure something else out." And also I feel like, again, I'm wondering if my perspective is skewed on this, because as a young child, I spent a lot of time around old people in nursing homes, and I had a sense of like, I have a much different perspective, where by the time I was like the little boy's age, like 10 or something, I had a very good sense of like whether a person was there enough to be somebody that could take care of you. So maybe my perspective on this is skewed, but I was truly like flummoxed by the way they kept being like, "This is probably fine." No, I would be telling mom everything, if nothing else, just to make the point of like, I don't know that they're okay to be living on their own anymore. Like, it's getting pretty bad out here. So yeah, like I fully do not understand 90% of the decisions they make in this movie. And yeah, going back to a point we made at the beginning, before even like leaving, I would have been like, hey, show us a picture of grandma and grandpa so we know who to look for at the train station. The movie skips over what happens. Like they're just on the train stops, and then they're in the truck with their grandparents. And I'm like, I'm just wondering, like, if they have no idea what their grandparents look like, how did that train thing go down? Like, are you so-and-so's grandkids? Yeah. Well, we're so-and-so.
We have grandkids.
Like, can you imagine if you're like, hey, are you Bill and Wilma's grandkids? Yeah, we are. Oh, solid. I meant you're our grandkids. We're Bill and Wilma. It was us the whole time. Come, get in our car.
Anybody want some cookies?
Yeah, because if these kids have no idea what their grandparents look like, apparently they just went up to any old people at the station and were like, you must be our grandparents.
Are you my grandpa?
Film does not show that at all, but like there should have been a pretty definitive moment there where like that's what makes it. That was probably the weird thing about the reveal, that they're two randos at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's the first time we realize that these kids have no idea what their grandparents look like. They could have set that up at least with a scene in the movie where it shows them at the train station like, hey kids, where are your grandparents? And them being a bunch of dumbasses and being like, grandma, grandpa, take us to your farmhouse. So I don't know. From the word go, I'm not psyched about the choices these kids make. Also, like, truly flummoxed by everything that happens after the kids know, like the mom tells them those aren't your grandparents. Truly flummoxed by every decision the kids make after that point. Like every decision I would make would be based on getting out of Dodge, like putting distance between me and the grandparents, but instead they're just like, yeah, let's play Boggle. Yahtzee. I don't know. I have a lot I could say, but let's kick it over to Adam. Adam's been quiet for a minute. Now I want to know what's ticking in that underneath those luscious locks of his. I want to know what's happening.
What's going on in that noggin?
You know what? Not a lot, like usual, but some
Adam
things.
fully like minimized the Zoom window and is just watching porn.
I'm just like, yeah. Oh, what was? Yeah. The visit. Fetch.
Yeah. Sorry,
Old
it's just we were
people.
talking about old people, and I got my mind went somewhere else.
I was a
I
little
watched the porn
preoccupied.
version of the visit, and I'll tell you, not that much different. But the difference is, ties it all together.
The difference is the boring grandparents are replaced with a MILF and DILF. Man, I'm so happy we have an audience, because sometimes the things I say, I'm not going to even drag you guys into this. Sometimes the things I say, I'm like, it's cool that people listen.
Thanks for listening.
Somebody gave us the time to be like, did he just say MILF and DILF?
All right.
I guess that would be GILF and GILF. It's grandma I'd like to and grandpa I'd like to. So they're just both GILFs.
Yeah.
Wilbur and Myrtle, or whatever the names we came up with.
Whatever old people's names are, who cares?
Thelma and Louise.
We were named during the Great Depression. They named us after their pets, Rock and
Bottle Cap.
Rock and Bottle Cap.
People call me Body for short.
They used to call me Breadline because everybody would wait in line to. He used to call me Breadline because everyone went through me. Can you imagine your grandma saying that?
To be old. Grandma, you're the craziest.
We're going to be old one day and we're going to be like, And that's when I told him he was acting sus. And they're gonna be like, "That's nice, Grandpa. Let's get you back into your chair.
Let's get you off this beach. You're getting pretty old." Oh,
Just imagining I'm like an old man, and they're like, "All right, let's just play his favorite TikToks for him." And some kid's like, "What's TikTok?" It's a thing from forever ago. I'm like falling asleep with TikToks playing on my smart TV. Like our grandparents fall asleep to World War II documentaries.
Exactly. Turns it off. I was watching that. Grandpa Luke.
Yeah, that's nice, Grandpa. That's real nice. Anyway, Adam, please share your opinion. He's full frozen.
Oh no. All righty, guys, we're back. Had a little bit of technical difficulties on some of the internet, but we're all good. We're back, and we're ready to talk about old people and young people.
Don't lie to him, Lanson. You had a diarrhea attack, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to bring it up. We're all here. It's an open space.
Why is he getting close? No, don't get closer to the camera. You should back. No, stop. Stop.
Okay.
No.
So you see, I am a countryman and I am very proud, but I have something called impotence, which means I totally just make a mudslide in my pants at any time in the day. So what I do is I have this special shack. Anyway, we don't need to get into it. I'll show you after the show. But anyway, yeah. So I had to take care of an oil spill there for a second. So.
If you didn't want your grandkids to hate you, you shouldn't have had such a sloppy mud pie.
I can't help it. They love me. Gastrointestinal problems and all.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we were going to get Adam's thoughts on the kids before we got sidetracked down a really interesting tangent about porn.
I missed most of it because it was like cutting out for me during that entire exchange. So I was like, I got the part about porn and then everything else was cutting out. And I was like, I just get bits of you guys doing these voices and saying these things, and then it would cut out. And then I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on. So I don't know how it's going to look in the recording, but either I'm going to be frozen or maybe I'll just be like, I don't know what's going on.
You were frozen on our screen, and we were like, he is being so patient with us, which is unlike Adam. Adam's usually quick to squash a bit.
Let me speak.
It is my turn, peasants.
So I love you said peasants in a way that sounded kind of like you were saying piss ants, which would also be either way. I'm fine with Adam saying
it's
either.
The mold.
A little bit of mold.
My thoughts about the kids. Everybody's been on the edge of their seats. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot to say because I feel like they're kind of idiot kids. They don't make the greatest of decisions. I feel like they, like you guys have said, could have just said some things to their mom, could have, even if not, just realized a lot earlier on that something fishy was going on. I get that. I think I am sympathetic to the fact that they're kids and even though these are kind of crazy people, they're dependent on them and they want to give their mom whatever, just want her to be happy. But yeah, I think there is a line that you cross, and that line was crossed very early on. But I think one thing I will say that was a smart move that isn't really explored in the movie that I saw is that they're filming everything, and which means they have a lot of evidence taking some stuff to court, which is pretty cool. Undeniable evidence of the things that happened. So, not that
they killed those freaking old people in self-defense.
Yeah, the abuse that was happening, and not that the courts would have been like, no, these guys were fine. They were
great.
Dead parents are in the basement, but you know what? They knew how to make a casserole. It's fine.
The judge watching the footage, like, did he just rub his diaper on you? Oh yeah, dude, you're good. Like,
yeah.
That's the thing with some horror movies is I feel like I saw one recently that this was a thing. Maybe it was one we talked about. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. But it was The Invisible Man. If there were cameras in certain places, if certain things were filmed, if certain things were seen from the perspective of the person, it would have helped a lot. Not that it really would have helped much more in this movie, but I think just to throw the kids a bone, that's a good thing to film everything. If you're in a horror movie, I don't think it's a bad idea. Then people will be like, there's no ghosts. And you're like, look at this bookcase is floating. The books are hitting the wall. And they're like, you know what? That's exactly what that looks like. You're right. I'm sorry. Doesn't really affect this movie, but it is a smart thing.
You know what? We were being super judgmental before. Let's walk it back a little. You're absolutely correct. That bookcase was floating.
You're right.
Sorry for calling you such harsh things, like a pissant and a peasant. Feel really bad about that in hindsight.
Things got out of hand. Things were said. Weapons were drawn. It's just, it's a whole thing.
But I don't. So, heard from Adam. I gave my 2 cents on these kids being dumb. Lappin, where are you at with these kids?
These kids did nothing wrong. Let me tell you why.
Nah. Perfect. Ace students. I would protect them. I don't know. Looks more like Donald Trump than it looks like a really protective teacher. Let me tell you, these kids are the best kids. I love these kids.
Great manners.
Of their IQs are 2 of the highest.
Add them together. They're almost as high as mine.
You remember when Donald Trump tweeted that once? Like, sorry, losers and haters. My IQ is actually one of the highest.
Sweet. Good.
Thanks, bro. Yeah.
I know.
Let me put that on your Wikipedia page and use this tweet as my source.
From the man himself, from the source of knowledge himself.
No reason he should be biased. Sorry, tangent.
Oh, you're good. You're good, man. Yeah, I feel like anything I have to say is just pretty much echoing what's already been said. You put up with far too much. You have too little of information of like what the frick your grandparents actually look like. I think for me, I just come from the perspective of like growing up. Of my 2 grandpas, one was really cognizant. You could like have a great conversation. The other one, like not so much. So, obviously it's not the exact same thing, but me as like a little kid, I would be able to kind of weed out like, okay, this person seems okay. And this person does not. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good thing. I mean, I will say this, like, it's a good thing he recorded himself talking about the technique of how to tackle. He can put that like in a recruitment video, maybe get himself a scholarship. All I'm saying. So
no, because he filmed it. So
yeah, they know this kid's got the killer instinct. Yeah. Put this guy at linebacker, he's gonna decapitate some people. Heck yeah.
Sorry, I was just trying to open up a little can of whoop ass.
My mama tape. Shoot.
But no, yeah. I did really appreciate, this is more film criticism than it is like thinking about the characters, but sometimes when old people write kids, like I said, M. Night didn't totally like nail it. There's some stuff that's an old man trying to sound like a kid for sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of old people writers, they give kids really problems that aren't problems. You know what I mean? Like they only want to write about teenagers and relationships and stuff. They don't want to give them like really weighty things. They don't want kids to talk about what's happening like in their soul. And there was something really beautiful that this film doesn't shy away from that. Like they have discussions about how the girl doesn't want to use footage of their dad, or how she has trouble looking in the mirror sometimes and she hates being on camera. And he talks about like the football game and how he weirdly thinks like that's why his dad left. And it's like, it felt much more in line with what being a kid actually is. Like, yeah, you're silly. You do freestyle raps that kind of suck. But also like you have these weird moments of self-reflection where you are kind of like digging into your soul and you don't always like what's there. Like kids are so much smarter than people give them credit for. And I really like that M. Night like gave them real things to be pushing up against. And there was something really special too about the girl understanding that there was something missing from her mom's life, and the mom was trying to fill it with a career, with a guy, with whatever, and it never went well. And the girl knew like what it actually is was just her parents like saying, "We forgive you," or whatever. And I liked the awareness of that. So like, props to him in terms of writing characters. Like most writers would just give kids silly problems, but he gave them like real depth, and he gave them real moments of self-reflection that were genuinely interesting. Oh, and the fact that the kids challenge each other, that it's the brother who calls her out and says like, you never put yourself on camera, you hardly even look in the mirror. Like the fact that he notices that and he takes this opportunity to say something is really interesting. But yeah,
good point.
Sorry, real tangent there. It's about the kids, but not really about the kids. Just said.
The kids are in there, the kids are in the mix. As far as like choices or things we would have done differently in the shoes of the grandkids, anything else we'd like to add, or anything we felt like we didn't cover? Solid. Alrighty. So now we're moving into the juicy stuff, the championship rounds. Okay. I don't know why I went a little bit Robert De Niro there, but so
why not?
Why not? Just a little bit of this, a little bit. Just some grandkids. My grandkids come over. We have a little bit of Parmesan there.
Grandkids come over. They find out I'm a dirty grandpa. What do you want?
Jason.
How we doing a number 3? No big deal.
No big deal. But yeah, so this is the portion of the show where we kind of give ourselves certain statuses. Final boy status, meaning that you're like, you almost made it to the end of the movie surviving. You're usually the last person that gets killed. And then final girl status is you're the last person. You survive the whole thing by your wit, by your will, by the skin of your teeth. You make it to the end. So why don't we start with final boy status? Adam, in consideration of the movie and in consideration of yourself, do you think you could give yourself final boy status?
Yeah, good question. This is an interesting movie to make a decision when it comes to final boy status, because the kids both survive. So
only old people die.
Yeah.
In the end,
only
old
the real
people that die.
Only the real and fake grandparents die. So and I guess that one neighbor lady that gets like lynched in the backyard.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think if I was one of the kids, and I that's probably how we're gonna take this angle, is if we are the kids. I think what Luke said earlier about them not making the decision to kill them or to do anything drastic until the week was over made a lot of sense to me, and I think that's probably what was happening. I think that'd be pretty easy to make it to that point. So I would give it to myself. I don't think there's a whole lot to say about it, but yeah, I think if you're just being a kid, doing even if you don't raise any alarms or do anything, I think you can survive the week and then perhaps get killed at the end. But I guess that's final boy.
I'll go next. I'll say, mind your P's and Q's, make it to the end of the week. I'll give myself final boy status. What about you, Lappin?
Yeah, I think, again, if you're the kids, it's pretty easy, since they don't want to kill you straight off the bat, that you can make it, So now that we've talked a little bit about final boy, let's talk about final girl. Let's see who comes out with the belt. Who's beating the grandparents to death? All right, Adam.
You guys hear that?
Oh, dude, that is solid. That's Predator vision right there.
Right in front of the mic, which helps.
Oh, shoot. But yeah, Adam, do you think with this movie you would give yourself final girl status?
I think that's a great question. I'm gonna approach this one in a very straight way, in a very practical way. I think
approach it straight and then approach it gay.
I'm not gonna approach it in a gay way. Just straight, just in a very homosexual, heterosexual.
Freudian slip, man.
Yeah,
never been more excited in my life.
Oh, we gonna talk after the podcast, bro.
I do not think I would survive. I think here's where I'm going with my head. Because I could be me now, which in case I would survive, because I'm 24, I'm not like super strong, but I can wreck an old person and swipe their legs out from under them, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
but I'm going back to 10-year-old Adam. I'm going back to back, like if I was me when I was 10 and this happened, I was a pretty sensitive, not very strong, very soft-spoken and timid kid who was scared of adults for the most part, and was very, to a pretty excessive degree, very accepting of people's authority over me. Not saying that I would just go with everything into the end of the week like these kids did, but I think I would put up with a lot before I said anything. I think I would be pretty well manipulated. I think what would happen is maybe around Wednesday, I'd be like, all right, something is weird is going on here. And I would probably try to talk to my grandparents about it. But I don't think anywhere in my mind I would believe that they weren't my grandparents. I don't think I'd make that connection. So I'd just talk to them about it, be like, dude, what's going on? I'm really scared. This is weird. And I would probably tell them, hey, I'm going to leave. And I think they would, I think in the shuffle of them realizing that I wasn't going to put up with it, I think they would take me out. They'd be like, it was a perfect 3 days. And then they killed me. So, and I think at that point, I'm 10 years old. I'm like 20 pounds. I think I'm not going
to. They're taking you out to the lake to drown you. And you're like, well, we're going swimming?
Sweet.
All right.
I'm all of 20 pounds at 10. Sorry, man. That just hit me good. Just like they could chuck me like a football, and there would be a thing I could do about it. Look at the spiral on Adam.
I just keep going.
Wow.
I wouldn't come down.
Perfect spiral into the well.
Shoot. Nice. Well, thank you very much, Adam. All right, Luke. Let's hear it, man. You giving yourself final girl status on this one?
You know what? I am going to give myself final girl status, and I'm going to tell you how I did it.
Yeah.
Look, it's pretty easy. When I walk in on Grandpa filleting his rifle, I don't stop him. At that point, some pretty weird stuff has happened. I'm getting a little freaked out. I probably am like, hold on. Let's wait a second. Let's see what happens here. In fact, I wouldn't even be like, if I said something, it would probably be more encouraging than discouraging. And I just wait a second. He blows his own brains out. Maybe by accident. Maybe he sees me at the corner of his eye, gets startled, and jerks the trigger. Either way, his brain is now a fine mist, and he's not really a concern of mine anymore. At that point, I grab the rifle, I go inside, and I go, it's time for you to clean the oven, Grandma. I let her crawl in, friggin' close that thing, turn it up to 425 degrees, and cook her like a Papa Murphy's pizza. If anybody asks, I show them the footage from hide and seek under the house, and they're like, I think you're completely justified in what you did. And I full have footage of Grandpa killing himself. I mean, the worst you could say about that is that I didn't intervene. Before long, they find the actual grandparents in the basement. Turns out I'm a hero. I did a preemptive strike, which in murder is not a thing, but I'm sure publicly people would think I was in the right. They'd be like, how did you know they weren't your grandparents? I'd be like, they weren't my grandparents?
What?
I mean, I knew right away. When they said,
from the get-go.
When they said, are you Bill and Myrtle's grandkids? You are. Well, guess what? We're Bill and Squirtle. That's us. Yeah, honestly, I just would have let Grandpa do his thing slightly longer, would have killed himself. And after that, all I got to do is overpower some friggin' skeleton witch. I don't know. Like, I've seen enough movies where an old woman gets punched in the face that I'm like, yeah, when push comes to shove, I could do it too.
Yeah, them old ladies, they don't got a chin, man. They can't carry the fight. So
I have a special point. I have a special category of horror films, which are horror films where an old lady gets punched in the face.
Yeah.
And there's more than one movie on the list.
Nice. I only have The Ritual on mine. So that's good to know there's others out there.
Oh yeah, there's more.
Heck yeah. So yeah, final girl status. You know what? I'm going to come at this from a different angle, but I am going to give myself final girl status. I will amend that. I will be the means by which the kids will get final girl status because I am in love with Catherine Hahn. And so I would be the boyfriend in this film. And I'd be like, oh, you can't you can't ride with the kids on the train. That's all good. I'll just go with them, make sure everything's all good. Then see him and be like, that doesn't match the photograph. All right, let's roll with this a little bit. So for Granny, I'm going to tell her that Antique Roadshow is playing in the oven. I'm going to turn that on, but also I'm going to put a stick of dynamite in there. You know, of course, we're going to be away from the house.
You have like the pump thing that says Acme, like in Looney Tunes.
Precisely. And so I'm not going to let the old guy just die in the explosion. Like he's got to get his comeuppance too. And so I'm going to tell him that John Wayne is in the woods. And then while he's going along, I'm going to create like just this trap with like a bunch of logs that I sharpened, dug a hole, put some leaves over it. And then, he's going to be looking for John Wayne as old men do. And he's going to get impaled. And then I'm going to, try to talk to the kids, not try to be too much in their lives. I know that's a relationship that takes time. Trust takes time. So definitely going to try to listen to them. And then, I'm going to marry that Catherine Hahn and we're going to have a good old time as a family. So boom, that's the visit. The visit has been visited.
Can I say for a second when you were like, here's what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say, like, I tell the old man that John Wayne is out in the woods. What I don't tell him is that it's John Wayne Gacy.
Let him take care of the old fella.
That's the matchup of the century.
Random old dude versus John Wayne Gacy. Get your tickets. Oh, boy. That is a good time. Well, guys, that was The Visit. That's the episode that we have for you guys. Usually this is where we kind of plug some things going on in our lives or something we want to let our audience know that's going on. Anything that you guys would like to bring up?
I'm sure I have something. Hold on. Let me make sure I know when this is coming out. I'm clicking around on my computer. Sorry. Okay. Well, now I've said something, so I have to bring it up. I don't know whether or not this will be formally announced, but last year I released a short film to coincide with Halloween. I did it as part of the podcast. This year I will be releasing another short film for Halloween. This one's called A Girl Walks Alone. I'm really excited about it. I'm saying all this before it's even been filmed. So we have the filming date set. We're going to do it and it's going to come out for Halloween. So this is that's my plug. So just follow me on Twitter at Luke Haueter, LukeHaueter. And I'm sure I'm going to post updates there. And yeah, that film will be out at some point in October in celebration of Halloween. So that's nice. My plug.
Very nice. Yeah, I guess as always, we really enjoy doing this podcast, Final Boy Status. So please keep listening to it. We appreciate all the support we've been getting. And yeah, everybody stay safe, stay healthy.
Oh, we should say what the next movie is.
Oh, yes. Does anybody know off the top of their heads or can check like which movie we're doing next?
I just checked real quick. Oh, you know what it is? Take it away, Adam.
Isn't it Signs? Aren't we doing Signs next?
Signs was last week, buddy.
Oh, I guess we're filming it not in order, so I thought we were changing it up. So that's my bad. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't have plans to change it, but maybe we will change it. I just like really awkwardly redub it, so it's like coming up next is Signs. My mouth saying something completely different. Coming up next week is Signs. No. So as far as the schedule I have, if everything stays the way we have it right now, next will actually be Halloween. Ooh. Which the three of us have a special relationship with. It's really exciting to be cracking into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you haven't seen it, please watch it. This is a movie we've already talked about before. And like, I'm just really excited to dive back into it. I don't think I have watched the movie since the last time we watched it and we talked about it.
Yeah, I think we've definitely, the last time I watched it was when we were together. So yeah, it'll be good to talk about it. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next time.
This has been an Underqualified Idiocracy media production, produced by Lanson Lappin, Adam Bone, and Luke Haueter. Theme music for the episode was written by Rachel Robison. You can hear more of Rachel's music at rachelrobinsonmusic.com. You can also find her on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at Robel Racheson. Artwork for the YouTube version of this podcast was created by Trinity Rodriguez. You can follow her on Twitter by searching at InstrinBaby to see more of her work. This podcast was recorded in Underqualified Studios and edited by Luke Haueter, with special thanks to Mike Fuchs for providing audio assistance. The illustrious voice acting providing the intro and outro of this episode is Shane Alvey of the Paradox Files voice acting. You can explore more of his work on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching at The Paradox Files.